Thanks for tuning in on Facebook Live for our monthly investment insight this April. We hope that you and your family had a great Easter weekend, and hopefully we'll get some warmer weather with the sun to accompany today. A couple good quotes for today. At least he who enjoys good health is rich, though he knows it not. An Italian proverb. He who enjoys good health is rich, though he knows it not. And I thought that's really telling today, because obviously with the coronavirus going around, health is a big question. Larry King, after his 1987 heart attack, famously said, "I thought if I was lucky enough to live, I'd change myself. I realized I could have a new life, new energy, new endurance, and feel better about myself." And hopefully we're taking this time to look at how to make ourselves better. As I said, I've talked to a lot of clients, and they are cleaning out their house, cleaning out their attic, doing home improvements, doing things they haven't got a chance to do in the last several years. I will tell you how to become rich. Close the doors. Be fearful when others are greedy. Be greedy when others are fearful. From Warren Buffett. I will tell you how to become rich. Close the doors. Be fearful when others are greedy. Be greedy when others are fearful. And if you look at the coronavirus, there's definitely been many moments through the coronavirus where there's been a lot of fear out there. And that usually has been historically the best time to make money in investments. And investing, what is comfortable, is rarely profitable. And investing what is comfortable is rarely profitable. Well, quick little summary today. Obviously, investment insight is an educational space where we do our best to ask questions. Please, as you guys are watching live on Facebook, or if you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to ask questions in the comments section. We want, I really prefer you to have your questions than anything. Today, what I was going to talk about was, a quick update in the market, talk a little about the stimulus, what's the economic outlook, and how do we get through the coronavirus. Obviously, investments is an educational space. We do our best to provide accurate information. Please seek competent legal, tax, and investment advice for your unique situation before making any decisions. So let's talk a little bit about a quick update of the coronavirus. Obviously, the belief that the coronavirus, if you remember last week, some of the experts said 100 to 250,000 Americans would die last week, and that did not happen. So that's very, very good news for our country and for the world. The Music City Center, which was being converted to a hospital in downtown Nashville, that conversion has basically stopped. They thought they were going to turn that entire center into a place just to hold Tennesseans, and it looks like that space is not going to be needed. The state of Washington has returned extra ventilators they don't need. So one of the biggest things, if you remember when the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, was talking, he said, we're going to have a shortage of ventilators. We're not going to have enough ventilators. But Washington State has actually sent ventilators back to the federal government to be deployed for people in need. The CDC has said over 90 companies have applied for vaccines for the coronavirus right now. Oxford University in England came out and said they will have a working vaccine in 6 months. And Oxford's a pretty strong thing. And that's, so obviously, Gilead Sciences, they have an experimental drug. With Gilead Sciences, they have a great treatment for HIV. And they have a drug that's similar to this. And 2/3 of patients that are critically ill or near death, when they take this drug, are recovering. So there does seem to be some really good signs. The bottom line for the economy is, it's not a matter of when will it get better, it's a matter of, if, it's a matter of when. And so when we look at the economy and stimulus, what are the big things? So let's talk a little bit about what is going on with the stimulus. It's really, you could ask the girls here today, it's hard to keep track of everything the Federal Reserve and the government is doing to try to ensure we get through this economic crisis. If you look at just the pure number of things that the federal government and the central banks are doing in the world, it's incredible. Especially the fact that Republicans and Democrats are working together so well, which is something that really 5 or 6 weeks ago would have been seen as impossible. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that the president was getting impeached by Congress in the House of Representatives, and they were all fighting like cats and dogs. That was back in February. That's only 2 months ago, and now they're working together on significant legislation to help the economy. So let's talk a little bit about the PPP program. If if you have not been watching our Facebook page, and I hope it's not a repeat for most people, the PPP program, or the Paycheck Protection Program, is one of the neatest programs, since we've been doing investment housing, we've ever seen from the federal government. This is a program where the government is trying to keep small businesses, keep their employees on staff through, in essence, providing a 10-week Paycheck Protection Program. So here's how it works. Basically, if you take what you spent a year ago and divide that by 12, you get a monthly average of what your employee cost is. Now that includes Social Security taxes, wages, 401k expenses, health insurance premiums. Basically, anything you've spent on your employees will be considered an eligible expense, within reason. And so you take that amount of money, you multiply it, you take whatever that was, divide that by 12 for last year, and multiply it by 2.5. Then the government will give you that money through a loan at 1% interest. But no interest is due for 6 months. And if you spend that money on keeping your employees back, 75% of it goes to employee wages, and the other, at least 75%, and the rest goes to either utility payments, mortgage interest, rent, or obviously healthcare costs or retirement benefits. That money will come back as a grant. The government will give you that money for keeping your employees on. So, to make that clear, the government is basically offering every small business in America, and even self-employed people can apply for the grant. And as well, if you're the business owner, if you make less than $100,000, anything below $100,000 in income is counted into the program. And so the neat thing about this program is it really provides small businesses an opportunity until the coronavirus lets off, which apparently it's doing right now, and hopefully the economy reopens, to ensure those wages for that time. This has to go through a local bank. And so one of the things that has been a struggle is most banks in Manchester and McMinnville are not SBA approved. To my knowledge, the banks that are approved are Citizens Tri-County Bank, U.S. Bank, and First Vision Bank in Manchester, and U.S. Bank in Manchester. And so those are the banks that are approved. Now, recently, First National Bank in McMinnville has part of the program, and other banks, and Coffee County Bank in Manchester is also approved. Those banks are a lot of good, so you have to go through a local bank. Now, most people have not been paid the money yet. So supposedly as of Friday of this week, a lot of these loans will start getting funded. That money will start going into the economy. And so that is what we are looking for small business. It's obviously a very neat little program. And so that's one of the biggest stimulus bills. Another stimulus bill, which you've probably heard about, is the per person check. Well, girls, how much are people supposed to get? $1,200, right? So it's $1,200 per person, $500 per child. If your income is $75,000 for an individual or $150,000 for a couple, and it phases out between $98,000, I think it's $99,000, sorry, and $198,000. So this is based on your 2018 or 2019 tax return. Now, the IRS said on Friday they have processed, or basically approved, 80 million people to get their money. And so that is a good thing. But to my knowledge, we do not know the customers actually received money in their checking account yet. You guys heard everybody that's received this account? I've not heard anybody. So supposedly, this Friday, the IRS is launching a website where if you don't already have your money by this Friday, you can track where the money is. But how many millions of people do you think are going to try to access that website on Friday?
A bunch.
A bunch. So what are the chances that website stays up all day? Probably low. So realistically, it's more than likely that website will come available, and we will do an investment we'll do a little talk about it when it becomes available this week, but more than likely probably next week, so maybe you can actually see it. But supposedly by the end of this week, small business loans and the stimulus checks should all start showing up in people's checking accounts. So that should be a good news, and that may be why, if you noticed, before we started Investment Insight, Amazon hit an all-time high. Well, because guess what? If you can't go outside your house, and you can't go to a restaurant, and you got a bunch of money in your checking account, where are people probably going to spend it? Online shopping. You're a very, very good chance. And so those are, if you did not file for taxes, the IRS has set up a website to where you can still get your stimulus check if you did not file. And so there is an automatic system set up to where there is payment plan. If you need help with that, please let us know. But there are people out there that don't make enough income to file for taxes. You will not automatically get a check. If you get your checks by mail, if you mailed in you get your refund was mailed to you, or mailed in your payment, then those checks are going to come in 2 weeks. So 2 weeks later. So it's one thing different. And a lot of people that pay foreign tax on investments usually mail in checks because tax software has trouble with foreign taxes. And so if that applies to you, don't lose heart. Checks are coming in the mail 2 weeks later. Okay. So, but July 1st, they expect most of it to be done, but that's the plan for the stimulus loans. Okay. So we have the EIDL loan. This is another program for small businesses, where small businesses can receive a $10,000 upfront grant if, and by the way, that Paycheck Protection Program, which I didn't say, the word on the street is that when you get that money is going to be tax-free. So you're not going to even have to pay taxes back if it comes back as a grant. Which if you're familiar with loans, when you pay off a loan, you still have to pay taxes on that money. If you make $100,000 a year and you pay off $30,000 in debt this year, you still pay taxes on $100,000. You don't pay taxes on $70,000. And so this PPP program, though, is set up to where supposedly there will be no taxes assessed in the IRS. That's according to the language in the bill. The EIDL loan is a $10,000 grant that small businesses apply for if you were impacted by the coronavirus. If your business has been hurt at all by the coronavirus, you can apply for the $10,000 grant. This grant you do directly through the Small Business Administration on their website. So you do not go through a local bank, you do directly through the SBA. So then that's a $10,000 grant in addition to, now you have to have fewer than 500 employees, and you do not have to, any small business qualifies. Now on Friday of last week, the Federal Reserve announced a new community lending program. Now this program is open to comment for individuals and businesses up to April 16th, I believe is the date. Now, what this is if you have, it's called the Main Street Lending Program, is if you have less than 10,000 employees or $2.5 billion in revenue, they are going to let companies borrow money up to $25 million with a $1 million minimum for 4 years. Now here's what's really interesting about this. Interest rate is 2.51% to 4.01%. It's basically overnight lending rate at U.S. banks. We don't know if that's fixed, we don't know if that's going to move, and we don't know the schedule yet. We should have more information by Friday. But this loan, which they announced on Thursday or Friday last week, is really neat because there is no collateral required. So if you're a small business, normally to borrow money, you have to put up what? What do you guys think? Collateral, a building, something that the bank can attach to in the event of situation. And so what this loan allows you to do is no collateral. It's going to be directly through the your local bank, through the federal government program. So this will probably also be through the SBA, more than likely. We don't know yet, but my guess would be through the SBA. If your bank is not certified with the SBA, you probably should call them and ask them to be, because it looks like almost every stimulus thing for local businesses appears to be funded through the Small Business Administration. Makes sense, Small Business Administration. And so no collateral required. It's a 4-year term. And like I said, it's $1 million minimum. But they're literally going to allow companies to borrow money and pay no interest for the first year and no principal for the first year. They're all deferred.
That's for people that have more than 500 employees, right? That doesn't.
No, it's anybody less than 10,000. So it's actually, I said that incorrectly. That was for the EIDL. Emergency loan is 500. This one is any company that's less than 10,000 employees. So this loan, of course, is really neat because it's since the Great Depression, the Federal Reserve has never gotten into the point of directly lending so much money to people. And so this is another opportunity to where they can get low interest rates. Like I said, there's no interest, no payments due. So larger companies, in order to get through the pandemic, are basically allowed to borrow money at very, very cheap interest. Now, how it's calculated is, it's 4 times your business's profit. So, if your business made $250,000 a year, you can borrow $1 million at 2.5% to 4% interest. If your business made $1 million a year, you can borrow what? $4 million. Unsecured, no credit check required. Pretty neat. That's what it says right now. So this is really another neat little program. There is no penalty for prepayment or paying early. Like I said, there's no collateral. Now there are some rules. There are compensation limits. Whoever the executives of these companies, they cannot pay themselves all the money. They can't buy back their own stock. And they can't pay dividends over a certain amount of money. So that money has to go, in essence, to their business needs. Does that make sense, ladies? And we don't know all those rules yet, but those are some rules coming out.
So what's the difference between this one and the PPP?
Great question. So PPP only covers payroll, and it's restricted right now to get that money. So the PPP becomes a grant. Like if you keep paying your employees and your staff, that money doesn't get paid back. This money has to be paid back. The difference is both programs, the PPP right now requires verification. So you bring in, I think it was your 940s that we brought 941s. So 941s, you have to show the bank basically how much you pay your employees. This right here supposedly is you just show how much money you made last year. You don't show anything about what you paid your staff, any what your costs are. You say, look, I paid taxes on $250,000. I'm gonna be able to borrow $1 million.
Well, the idea for the paycheck is to keep people staffed.
Yeah.
This seems to be more for bigger companies.
Yeah, it's from bigger companies.
Get the ones that
Didn't get the money for paycheck. But a lot of businesses in our area, some that are very successful make $250,000 a year, so they would still qualify for this program. And so, and we were talking about, when you look at how you structure loans, it's very hard to get a small business loan for $1 million with no collateral. You understand what I'm saying? Now you have to show the income, so you have to show the ability to repay, but other than that, you pretty much have to show what?
Nothing.
Not much else. So these are pretty unique times. You weren't already aware of that. Do you girls have any more questions about these programs?
Bill Nichols said that Coffee County Bank was, I guess, in the process of doing the SBA.
Okay, so Coffee County Bank's in the process of being SBA approved, but apparently they're not approved yet, according to one of our listeners, or whatever you call it, watchers. Yes. Anyway, but that is, we'll see how that goes. So but this new program that was announced last week, we'll have more information this week. But if you think about it, if you're a business and you maybe have higher interest debt, it's possible you could restructure your debt using your business's collateral in a way to lower your total interest payments or your situation. But that money does have to be put as before your time. Okay. A couple more things that the federal government has done. The not federal government, Federal Reserve, is they put $100 billion up last week to back mortgage securities and student loans. If you're not aware, the mortgage bond market liquidity, or the ability for you to get a mortgage loan on the secondary market, has completely dried up in the last 3 weeks. And so what the Federal Reserve did is they went in and they've taken $100 billion to buy these bonds, make sure that if you want to get a mortgage on your house, you can still get one. If you want to get a student loan, you can still get one. They also set up a $500 billion facility to loan money to states. Now, in Tennessee, ladies, how does the state of Tennessee make most of their money?
Lottery.
What'd you say? Yeah, the sales tax. The sales tax is by far our biggest income. Here, the city of Manchester almost has more sales tax revenue than the city of Tullahoma, even though Tullahoma has a lot more people, almost double the population. Why is that?
Interstate.
So what do you think is happening right now to our local city and state governments with sales tax revenue?
Oh no.
We're going way down. And so one of the things that we didn't cover in the stimulus bill is more money is going to cover states and cities than anybody by far. Most of the money is going to them. So when we look at it, there's a big part of this where money is going to back up the states and local governments so they don't get in financial hardship. Because if the city of Manchester gets in financial trouble, what are they going to do? How are they going to raise money?
More.
On what? What do they raise taxes on? On what though? Property taxes, right? I mean, if you live in Warren County, you would have already known that Warren County did a property tax increase last year. The city of McMinnville is talking about doing a property tax increase this year. Before what? All this happened. And now their sales tax revenue is probably what? Dropped off. So that's one thing that they are doing. The Federal Reserve also is allowing Wells Fargo Bank to grow again. Wells Fargo, because of some scandal issues, has been limited in how much they can grow their business. Guess what they just did to Wells Fargo a couple weeks ago? Grow as much as you want. We don't care anymore. They will not punish any bank that does a loan modification. So if you guys remember the 2008 financial crisis, a lot of these people had loans they couldn't what? They couldn't pay. So what did the federal government do? It basically gave them the money for free. A gentleman I used to rent from, to my knowledge, got almost half his loan forgiven in California on a loan he took out. And so they're not going to penalize any bank if they have to modify a loan in order to help people get through the process. Another big thing is any bank with more than $250 billion in assets. If you guys are familiar, in the 2008 financial crisis, they set what's called tier capital ratios. Tier capital ratios was how much money does that bank have to put in reserve so there's not a run on the bank, so that the bank doesn't what? Everybody see A Wonderful Life? Need more coffee in this room, ladies. I don't know. So, in A Wonderful Life, what do you have to do at his honeymoon? You get to go? James Stewart get to go on his honeymoon?
No.
No, what did he do with the money?
I can't say it.
He took his money to back the bank up, the savings and loan, right? He didn't use the money. And so, what the tier capital ratios is, they tell every bank in America has to set so much money aside in the event of a crisis. And so, what that means is, that's money they can't what? If that money's set aside, what can they not do with that money? Can't use it, can't loan it out. So what the government just did was lower that from 3% to 2%. Or basically allowed banks to take 33% more of their capital and loan it out. That was Thursday of last week. They also announced that they're going to be buying treasury bonds and mortgage bonds in bulk to try to get interest rates to do what? Go down. And so that is, in a nutshell, if you just rewatch this part of the video, the last 10 minutes, enough information probably to cover 12 to 14 investment insights that we've done in the last year, just between all these programs that you're looking at. And like I said, the girls here need more coffee for sure. So,
No, we need chocolate.
and chocolate. Cherie says we need chocolate. Okay, that's probably true. Okay.
Coffee County Bank,
They are-
says they are approved.
Okay, so Carter says that Coffee County Bank is approved for, who is the bank CEO, is approved for SBA lending. So obviously Coffee County Bank would be a great bank to go look at and to look at SBA lending approval. The U.S. Treasury, of course, not to be confused with the Federal Reserve, has also made some other developments. If you're aware, in the stimulus bill, Congress set aside about $50 billion for airlines. But they gave the Treasury Secretary the right to negotiate terms. If you guys remember, the 2008 bank bailouts were not well received. Why was that? Is any idea?
Because they were lending money that shouldn't have been lent.
Yeah, the money that shouldn't have been lent. And the banks were considered getting the money where the people were what? A lot of people weren't getting the money. Like you're bailing the banks out, but you're not protecting people's jobs. And what's really different about this crisis versus 2008 is, instead of focusing on the $1,200 check you're getting, a lot of the money is really going towards what? Bills, and encouraging businesses to keep people what? Employed. Because if people don't lose their jobs, then people probably pay their what? Their mortgages and their bills. So if you keep getting paid, you probably don't go into foreclosure. So it's much smarter to protect somebody's job than give you a $1,200 check. Because if I lose my job, $1,200 is not going to pay my bills. Right? So it's much smarter to protect the jobs than just what? Give a check. And that's what, if you look at most of the stimulus bill, is relating to that. And so the U.S. Treasury, however, was given $50 billion to give to airlines. But they're negotiating the terms. If you're not already familiar, airlines and cruise ships, how they get paid really is in advance. So if you're familiar with airlines and cruise ships, when you get on your airplane, when do you pay for your flight? Usually.
Before you go home.
Yeah, 2 or 3 months before. Cruise ships are the same way. And so one of the problems is these airlines and cruise ships aren't running. So what do they have to do?
Refund.
Refund money back. The problem is they owe about $47 to $48 billion in refunds right now, because most cruise ships and airlines live on money they're making. The money they live on today is money for work they're going to do what? In the future. And so the airline and cruise ship industry, and if you've noticed in the stock market today, before we start Investment Insight, the cruise ship industry and airlines are seeing the biggest price swings up and down. And that's because of what we're about to talk about right here. Is they owe almost every dollar the government wants to bail them out, they already owe back to their customers. So the airlines are threatening, we would rather go bankrupt and not pay that money back than possibly what? Take the loan. The federal government has said, we're going to give you $50 billion, but the federal government wants to own stock in the airlines. So instead of us giving you the money for free, we give you the money and we make you what? The government's going to own part of the business. They're going to own part of the company. You know, cruise ships are not based in the United States. Most of them are based in Liberia for a lot of reasons, but they are not eligible for the bailout because they're not what? American companies. So even though the President of the United States told those ships to stop what? Stop sailing, they're not giving them any money as of yet. And so now these airlines are faced with a predicament. Do they take the money from the government, but the government wants to own part of the company? And so that is the big predicament of the government. And so it's very interesting to see because all these airlines and cruise ship industry, because they do pay forward, are probably going to need more money to what? To make it. And of course, if you notice, there's a company called Boeing. Boeing, which is at one point was the most valuable industrial company in the United States a year and a half ago. They are very much dependent upon airlines. Why?
Because they're
Don't have planes with you.
Yeah, the airlines are bankrupt, they don't buy planes. And so when we look at all of this is causing cruise ships, airlines, and Boeing type stocks to be very, very unstable. Because people are trying to figure out, are they going to make it? What's going to go on? So those terms have still not been developed yet, but more than likely, there's going to be some additional bailout money that's going to have to come to airlines and cruise ships because literally they've worked on this pay in advance system. Or what could be another option? What would help the airlines and the cruise ships right now?
People book trips.
If they could book trips for June and July, if you were to go to Florida in June or July, if you were to go to on a cruise somewhere, if they can start booking again, what are people going to start doing? They're going to start booking. If they can start booking, they're going to start taking what? So one thing to be concerned of is if you have booked a cruise or an airline in the near future, this is a big deal because if you pay them money and they go bankrupt, what's their question of? To get your money back.
Get your money back.
But here's the thing, you probably can get a really cheap deal. So here's another thing, do you buy when people are scared or do you sell? It's a good thing to think about.
But aren't they going to just probably encourage people to just move their cruises out instead of refunding them?
Yeah,
They
But-
could offer like an incentive, like $500 extra cash in cruise.
and they are. They're trying to keep that money because they know, money in the hand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like gift cards, right? I talked to a customer today, and he bought a bunch of gift cards to a really nice restaurant in Nashville. What happens if they don't reopen? What are those gift cards worth?
Nothing.
Nothing. And so, but one of the best things you can do for a local restaurant right now probably is buy a gift card. Because what are you helping them do? Helping those people keep their jobs, stay in business. This is why everybody should consider ordering takeout and helping people out because this is not anybody's fault. And if you have the money to help the people out, you should consider doing it. So that's a big issue that has been going there. And obviously the federal government, the PPP program, Small Business Loan Program, is almost out of money. And so the federal government's already working on adding more money to the small business program to retain those jobs. And so right now, Steve Mnuchin and the Treasurer and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are negotiating what the next stimulus bill is going to be like. So hopefully this week we'll have something done on that. Okay. Another big thing that's going on is President Trump has negotiated a deal with OPEC, Russia, and other non-oil companies to reduce oil production by 9.7 million barrels a day. If you've driven by Manchester, I filled up this morning. It was I think it was $1.79 for gas in Manchester. In McMinnville, it's $1.32 or $1.29. I don't understand why there's a 40 cents difference, but it's supply and demand. But if you've noticed, there's a lot less people driving these days. Yeah, probably the interstate, they're getting people on them. But oil demand before the crisis was 100 million barrels a day. That means every place in the world was using 100 million barrels of oil a day. Today, they estimate demand has dropped to 65 million barrels a day. Now, I don't know about you guys, but who wants to, when you guys are get your $1,200, who's going to buy a barrel of oil?
Not me.
So none of the girls here have signed up to buy a barrel of oil. We've decided at our office we're going to fill our office with barrels of oil. I'm just kidding. But the point is, when you have 35 million barrels of oil extra a day and people aren't allowed to drive, what do you do with it?
Burn it.
Sharita just went to downward state on us and decided to burn all the oil fields. No, pretty much you don't burn it, Sharita. You store it somewhere, right? But if you hadn't noticed, over the last 4 years, we've had extra oil every day. So the price of oil has kept doing what? Before this happened. So right now, the world is running out of places to store oil. To give you an example, some forms of crude oil near Canada, the Canadian border, were actually trading at negative prices. That's right. They would pay you to take the oil off your hands. If you're familiar with the country of Russia, Russia has this place called Siberia. Who wants to go there? None of the ladies are volunteering. Well, Siberia has a bunch of old oil wells they built in the Soviet Union that they cannot turn off. So you can't just, what? You can't just cap a well and it stops. When you have an oil well, it's pressurized, right? So the oil does what? It just keeps pumping up. And so if oil starts coming out of the ground and you got nowhere to put it, what's it called? Oil spill, right? Ever heard of the Exxon Valdez or the BP oil spill? It's not a good thing, right? It's not good to have a bunch of extra oil. And so what's happening is you've got all this extra oil and it's got no place to go. To give you an idea of how crazy this is, there are people that have invented these plastic bags to put oil in that you can stick in a truck container. Because they got extra truck containers. So instead of putting them in barrels, they figured out we're running out of barrels. So what we can do is take the oil, put it in a plastic bag, and then put it in a truck. And then take it somewhere. So that gives you an idea. Because, I mean, if you're familiar with the United States, so I'm not going to draw a map.
Frank says to give it away.
What, Lisa?
Frank.
Well, we could give it away, Frank. Thanks, Frank. So, we'll see about giving you all away. I don't know if they're... And they are in Canada. If you want to go up north, you can go get some. Just bring your truck. Bring your Chevy pickup. But the point is, so literally they're running out of places to store the oil. So they cut, President Trump got the president of Russia, all the Middle Eastern countries to get together and do a deal to cut oil production. Think about this. The United States, Russia, and OPEC made an agreement to cut oil. If anything we're looking at, when you look at what's going on today, it should give people some optimism about our world. The fact that in 4 or 5 weeks, Republicans and Democrats can work together. President Trump, President Putin, the leaders of the Middle Eastern countries, they can work a deal out. I mean, you think about that. That's a pretty neat thing to happen in what? Very short period of time. Definitely should give us some confidence in our world. And so, literally the world's flooding. Now China, who does not have a lot of extra oil, they have agreed to start buying more oil to store it in their storage container. If you're familiar, the United States has something called the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. President Trump asked Congress to allow them to buy more oil to store it. And Congress would not approve it. Now, let's be honest, right? Do you think oil prices will stay low forever?
No.
So what should our country probably be doing? But what are we not doing? We're not. We're letting individual people put it in their house. I'm just kidding. Now, what happened is the country of Mexico was the last holdout. So if you noticed, all Good Friday and all through Easter, Mexico was refusing to cut their oil production. Because Mexico has been very smart with oil. Mexico, every year, buys a hedge for oil. What that means is they lock in their oil price. So no matter what the price of oil is, Mexico tends to what?
Is it cheaper?
They get to sell it for a higher amount of money. No, if you're locked in, if you knew the oil was $25 a barrel, but a year ago you could lock it in at $60 a barrel, did you make money? Yeah. And so Mexico didn't want to stop selling oil because guess what? They were guaranteed their price, no matter what happens. And so that is, now obviously when it comes to oil, when oil gets this cheap, a lot of U.S. oil companies are going to go bankrupt.
Bill Mickle said, I heard we let Mexico keep production loan.
Yeah, Mexico was allowed to keep most of their production. That was the deal. They got to keep most of their production. Mexico ended up, in one sense, you can't go to Mexico, so the tourism's dead, but they're buying their gas, And obviously, the people that tend to buy Mexican oil, the hedge, are U.S. companies they believe in, speculators. Okay, so a lot of U.S. oil companies are going to go bankrupt as a result of oil prices being this low. And so because of this, what happens? What happens to a bankrupt oil company, ladies? What do you guys think? If you own an oil company and it goes bankrupt, what happens to those wells?
Someone else buys them?
If somebody buys them, and what happens in bankruptcy? If you were to go bankrupt today, what would happen?
You have to get rid of all your stuff.
Auction.
Yeah, take your home and go to auction. Same thing with oil wells. These oil companies go bankrupt. All of the stuff that they own does what?
Gets up.
It goes to auction. And so when these oil wells go to auction, it might have cost one oil company $40 or $50 a barrel to buy that oil well, but guess what you can buy it for at auction? A lot less, right? So maybe they can buy it for $4 to $10 a barrel. So even though they've cut oil production, when you have 9.7 million barrels less a day, you still aren't what? You still got what? 20 million barrels plus extra a day? So what's the price of oil going to do?
Still.
It's going to probably still be low. And so long term, the oil market is in a really rough place because electric cars, people not driving as much. It's going to be a long time probably till oil really ever recovers to where it could be because the world's changing, and these countries, Russia and OPEC, are competing with one another, right? Because everybody knows that if Tesla stock was up very strongly yesterday. If Tesla makes a way for electric cars to be cheap, what are oil prices going to do?
Go down.
They're going to go down. And so if oil prices go down because there's no one's using oil, then what are people going to stop doing? They're going to stop drilling for oil. So right now, Russia and OPEC, they've gone from being a cartel to being capitalistic. Every country is trying to sell as much oil as they can now while they can get what? Get their money for the price what? Keeps dropping. If you knew that they were going to build F-150 pickup trucks, as many as they could, no matter if anybody bought one, what is Ford going to try to do? Sell as many at $50,000 as they can before the price gets down to $10,000, right? So the same thing's happening with OPEC. OPEC members in Russia have gone from this cartel that controlled oil prices to now they're like, we got to sell as much as we can now because we're getting $25 a barrel today. We might get $10 next week. And so you have real capitalism going to work. And that's really neat because capitalism has destroyed OPEC, which is one of the neatest things that happened in our lifetime, in my opinion. So one of the other big things for investors that we have not talked about is, these are a couple things to think about is, there are no R&D requirements for 2020. So you are not required to pull money out of your IRAs when the market's down. Now what's nice about that is, if you're getting a monthly check and you don't need it for an R&D, you might consider not taking it this year or delaying it. Another thing is, hey, if you're getting that $1,200 or $2,400 a couple, you may delay taking your monthly check out of your account until the stock market what? Recovers or reduce it by that amount of money. Because that's a smarter way to go.
TD also says that, it also, the CARES Act also allows already taken 2020 RMDs to be rolled back into accounts.
Huh. I did not know that, Sharita. But that is a good thing too to do is you can actually roll your RMDs back in. You can reinvest the money back in. So, you know, this year you might want to consider not taking your RMD if you don't need the money. If you need the money, don't worry about it. Keep using it. Going forward, here's the good news. It appears as the coronavirus deaths that were predicted have not come to fruition. You know, 250,000 Americans did not die last week. And that is a very good thing. The real hit so far has not been the coronavirus, it's really been the economy. The entire economy, the economic damage is much worse than the coronavirus damage has been so far. So what conditions, what do you guys think, ladies, actually the question here is, what do you guys think needs to happen for the stock market and economy to rebound? What would you guys think would be the conditions that we need?
A vaccine for it.
Yeah, so obviously, if we get a vaccine or a good treatment option, right? People aren't going to worry about it anymore. You know, Disney World's not going to be open for a while. Breaks my heart. But the issue today is, if they get a vaccine, guess what's going to happen?
Brent's going to Disney World.
I'm going to Disney World, okay? I just let you guys all know. My kids are going to have fun, and we're going to be there when it opens. It'll be great. I'll see you all video. I'm just kidding. Point is, it's going to be the best moment ever. So I may start crying. I'm just kidding. Point is, what are some other things that would cause the economy to get better? Well, if people are allowed to go back to work, right? I mean, obviously it's going to work on a limited basis. Certain businesses, which don't have a lot of people inside them, are going to start opening faster than others. You know, if maybe the hair salons, nail salons, you can ask the girls here working, I'm soon going to be a barber, and you can tell by my hair it's not looking very good, and a nail salon person at the office, because we have a limited group of people. But those are things that we're all looking for.
It's going to be essential, then.
Yeah, these are going to be essential services sooner or later. So, as you can tell, the number of blondes in America continues to dwindle. So that is what we're seeing. But the interest rates are still low, right? Gas prices, as we talked about, are probably going to stay low for a while. There's massive economic stimulus in place.
Bill says contact tracing.
Yeah, contact tracing. I mean, that is definitely a big thing. So one of the things that Google and Apple have partnered with is they've actually, I think they're set for 3 billion people. Android software and Apple software system, or iOS, they have basically set up a system where if Taylor has coronavirus, it can track her phone where she's been all the time, which is kind of creepy, and it can tell every person she was around, they'll know. Which is kind of scary because, I mean, Apple and Google knows your location at all times. Susie says she turns it off. Right, Susie? So if Susie gets coronavirus, everyone may be in trouble. But Taylor, she keeps her location on. So if she gets the virus, they're going to talk about around it. And that's basically what would help, because if you know this person's got coronavirus, they can tell every cell phone of every person they come in contact with. So for our clients that don't have smartphones, you are off the grid. So, but everybody else is going to be detected. And by the way, I don't think you can ever really turn your location off, Susie. You just got to throw that out there. They always know. But and so those are the conditions where if we get some treatment options and people are allowed to go back to work, you got low interest rates, you got low gas prices, and you got massive stimulus. Everything that has brought us out of a recession in the past is set up to do what? That again. And that's why if you look at the stock market, one reason why the stock market's doing better is the stock market doesn't care about today. What do they care about? Tomorrow, the future. And so if they feel like the future is going to look pretty good, what's the market going to do? If they don't feel like the future is going to look very good, it's going to go down. So what are the actions you can take if you retire? You know, obviously, when people look at investments, it's very important not to let the news media be the deciding factor of what you do. They're not going to help you make money. That is not their goal. Their goal is to scare you. The coronavirus is bringing the best ratings. You know, cable TV is seeing the highest ratings in years. Because guess what people are doing?
Stuck at home.
They're stuck at home watching TV. It's depressing. Thank goodness I can work here at the office today. I hate working from home. Okay? It's terrible. I don't want to be sitting there looking at the news all day. It's not good for you. But secondly is, when you look at your portfolio is, leave 8 to 12 years of what you have in investments. It's something that's low risk, something that's safe. I mean, when you look at retirement, you know, if you have bonds in your portfolio, this entire time, bonds have done what? They've gone up. Stock market's gone down, but bonds have done what? They've been going up, and that provides you a hedge. If you leave 8 to 12 years of what you need in relatively low-risk investments, then when these kind of things happen, you have time to get through it. I mean, does anybody really believe the coronavirus is going to be affecting the world 10 years from now? They're going to have a cure for it. I firmly believe, and by the way, you know, the Center for Disease Control, which we spend $7 billion a year on, they're not going to cure it. Guess who's going to cure it?
Some scientists.
90 companies are out there developing a vaccine. Why are they doing that?
So
They can make a ton of money right now. If you had a cure for coronavirus, who's going to take it? Everybody. They've got billions of customers waiting for what?
the vaccine.
And I don't really like needles, but I'll tell you what. You give me a vaccine, I'm taking it. So that's what matters there on that end. And so that's one thing to think about. But also think about is when the market's going down, don't be afraid to be buying stocks. Everybody says they want to buy low and sell high. People tend to do what? Sell high and buy low. They don't tend to do the opposite. So think, when you get the most scared, that's probably when you need to own stocks. When you feel really good, you probably need to own more bonds. That's one thing to factor in there. But the biggest thing is keep calm and carry on. So what questions do you guys see besides that? What questions do you guys have for me today? Because people send messages. Taylor?
You didn't talk about like the regular income tax. Is there a delay on that since the stimulus bill
Great question.
coming out?
So they did, that's a very good point. In April 15th was supposed to be tax day. Now it's July 15th. And more than likely, that'll be extended. You are still allowed to put money into a health savings account or an IRA or Roth IRA until July 15th of this year, not April 15th. So you are allowed to put that money back in. And sure, you had a good point about putting your R&D money back in your account if you want to as well. Tax free. But the new tax deadline is July 15th. Any further questions?
But you answered a lot of the questions that I asked.
Yeah, they could just leave it July 15th.
It's a lot easier.
That'd be great.
Delay everything.
Halfway in the year. You know, but I mean, more than likely though, if we go back in May, they'll probably keep the tax deadline July 15th. If we go back in June, they probably won't because the economy's getting better, and what are they not going to want to do? Charge people a bunch of taxes. So they'll probably put taxes back till after the November election. So we'll see what happens on that. But like I said, if you guys have any questions or concerns or comments, please feel free to give us a call here at the office, 931-728-2130 or 931-474-2130. We can't wait to have people come back in the office. Sharita has already promised that she's going to make more sausage balls than she's ever made in her life, some fresh food, when it comes time for us to have Investment Insight in the office. And Bill Nichols has been commenting a lot today. He has agreed to dress up as a chicken and sit outside and direct people in. So we're excited about that as well. So, but thanks for tuning in today, guys, and appreciate your time. Have a great day.